What are you seeing from Lindholm Retro? Because we've been critical of him throughout the season. I think that's fair to say. I think that much of it has been earned. I think he has looked disinterested or what. Are you seeing a change? Are you seeing a little bit more to him as of late? Because the points aren't there to the extent like Sharon Govich has been on a real tear. Sorry, we talked about Huberdeau and Sharon Govich has had all the goals. He hasn't had that big offensive clip to the same extent. He's had some points, obviously, but are you seeing a bit of a change in him, or is it kind of status quo?
I think it's probably a better attitude, but everyone's having more fun, so you're going to get dragged into it as well, even if. But I think for me personally, my opinion on Lindholm is just it's been confirmed more than anything. He's not a number one take over a game, drive shift after shift, dominate kind of player. He's a real good two-way centerman.
Mm-hmm. I agree entirely. I think that's what we've learned this year.
Yeah.
Can he score? Well, if he's got great playmakers around him, sure.
Yeah.
He's going to defend. He's going to play all special teams. He's a great player at everything. I shouldn't say he's a very good player at everything, probably great at nothing in a sense. You know what I mean?
I talk a lot about for defensemen. There's certain guys you just mesh with that it's easy. Mm-hmm. You didn't have to. Like Jay McKee is always an example for me that I use. I think Lindholm would be that guy if you were a forward. If you're playing with him, he's probably really easy to play with.
Yeah.
He's smart.
Battles hard.
Does the right things. Works the right way. Right? Like he would just be real easy to play with. But he's not a clear-cut number one offensive producing guy.
No.
I'm just thinking if you're lining up centers in the West, like there's not a team in the playoffs, I don't think that you'd be like, Lindholm's better than that center. And if it was their number one guys, and that feels like a shot at him. But I do think you could line him up against a lot of the second line centers and be like, it's just
I agree.
Sort of miscast here in a way, right?
Yeah, I agree 100%. And is he miscast? It's just the way it is. He's
out of necessity,
the best centerman, right? That's what it's going to be. And is it fair to compare him to some of the other guys? Well, probably not. But that's the thing. He wants to be paid like some of those other guys. So it's him who's in a way asking, he's going to draw that comparison when if 9 million, okay, well, let's see what 9 million gets you down the middle in the West. And he just isn't. The Flames will miss him dearly, I think, when he is gone, and depending on how they replace him, because he's a very good player.
Big minutes.
He plays minutes, he wins draws, penalty, the whole thing. But he's not worth that kind of money, and that's just ultimately if you want to be in that pay group, in that pay structure, then your game needs to kind of dictate that, and it doesn't.
Is word out? Sorry, I'm jumping in front of you there, but is word out to his agent and to himself that you should reevaluate what you're going after, because other teams have to be watching this, and agents aren't stupid. They're going to be talking to other teams that would be interested in having him next year sign as a free agent, whether they're allowed to or not. I don't care about. I'm not naive. Is word going to get back to him that, hey, yeah, we'd love to have you, but your request, we can't meet it as well? Like
as crazy as July 1 gets, it's not.
Yeah,
9 north of
especially
9.
With
crazy.
7 years versus 8. Like that's going to hurt even more. You just can't give full term and free agency like you can if you're staying with your team. But I don't think like they're disillusioned at what happens. Like they see the games too. He's not on a 40 goal pace. He scored 40 the other year. When he flirted with 100 points a few years ago, he's nowhere near that. Like they understand. And the ask the season before is like, well, okay, you want to lock us up. If we had a career year, what would that be worth? And I think they kind of got in the right neighborhood. It's just not anything close to a career year because the talent around him hasn't been anywhere near what Tkachuk and Gaudreau provided him 2 years ago, which was and probably will be the career year for him.
Yeah, and
right?
if, the agent can argue that, but if you're a GM, you're going, I don't give a shit who you're playing with. Your job's you want to make that much, you drive the bus.
Yeah, and look, we'd all want to make more money, but I don't think he's expecting to get that. He could have this summer, but if he's like, it would be silly to not adjust your expectations when you've played half a season and the results are clear as day. He's a great secondary piece. He's not a number one center. They know that.
And is it actually 2 years? Because he wasn't that good last year.
Yeah, no, last year was just okay, but
Yeah,
last
just
year we
like,
kind
it's
of
not-
wrote off
it's-
to like the whole thing was a cluster bleep, like
Yeah,
a
this is-
dysfunctional team.
You can blame, but he's
infighting.
part of the reason it was a cluster bleep because he didn't play.
Sure,
It's
he was
2
there.
years of
Yep.
Mhm.
I'm just an okay.
And that's why I don't think the agent's still asking for the same number. It would be
Yeah.
ridiculous. You're just going to get laughed at.
Yeah, because I feel like his play has turned around a little bit, and you're kind of seeing now what Elias, because he's got some guys, they're not elite level, but they're playing very good. They're playing very well, is what I should say. Sharon Govich is scoring. Huberto's been better. They're a very good line right now. There seems to be some chemistry there where there hasn't been in the past. And what is this? What is present day Elias Lindholm worth? And I don't know that the Flames and he come back to the table. We've talked about Hannafin. Is there any situation, if you're Craig Conroy Retro, if your phone rings and it's Lindholm's agent, he says, hey, you know what? The mood is different. The wins have been more plentiful than the losses. What if we were going to start over and look at Lindholm staying in Calgary long term? Would you have interest?
Well, it goes back to everything. Are we playing chess or checkers? If it's checkers, then I'm absolutely talking to him. But if it's chess, I need to know what the offers are in return before I do that.
Yeah, you want to play
Right?
for 6 a year? We'll have you forever. That's just not
Absolutely.
realistic, though, right?
Now, to simplify it, it's going to be crazy, but I'm saying yes, and I'm basing it off of a month or just over a month of play that this team, when you start the season the way you start, you earn that criticism and you earn what goes with it. You get shit on. When you play as well as they have since then, you earn that as well.
Mhm.
So you've given me they don't give a shit about me, but you've given the coach, the GM, the organization, the fans, the media, everyone that watches this team, you've given them a reason to believe in you. And you now have to reevaluate. It's not October when this is bullshit. These guys aren't even showing up and trying. These guys like shoot them to the moon, get rid of them for nothing. No, they've played good hockey and they've beat good teams and they're battling to get into a playoff spot. And then a goalie that's playing Vezina caliber hockey. Do you piss it out the window? Is it a bad plan to sell guys? No, but you can also keep them and you can take a run at it. I don't know how you add to this squad. I still think that down the road, you're going to end up. I don't see a clear path to success other than Markstrom playing his ass off.
Mhm.
But you've played well enough. We should at least consider it. And anyway, long story. I think at the end of the day, you regret if you don't do anything. It's fine, but you'll still regret it because what you're not going to do is give yourself an opportunity to pick up that difference-making superstar. You know what I mean? Overly highly talented pivot up the middle or winger, or I think you're going to be monkeying around trying to put the pieces together for years to come if you don't go and get that piece, that high level elite talent.
Yeah, I just think keeping him around makes it harder to find a number one center because he's proven he isn't. To your point, and then secondly, I just feel like he's earned the right to say, you know what, I want to try something somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. I just
here.
wonder. So if the determination is he's a second line center, it's almost like the Backlund thing. I'd be very good third line center. What is the going rate for a really good second line center in the NHL?
Oh, I'd be happy to pay him $7 a year. He'll ask for more. I think he'll get more, but like you can go look at like Bo Horvat. He'd rather pay JT Miller and certainly rather pay Elias Pettersson, understandably so, but he went over and he got big bucks. You can look at Mark Scheifele. There's another, okay, great if he's your second center, right? Like there's a market for those guys.
So I just want to
have Kadri and Backlund.
I just want to jump in. So if the ask was 9, and if we kind of agree, well, they'd have to back off of that.
Yeah.
And you're okay at 7.
Yeah.
Well, just
on an 8-year deal.
Ask yourself this: who's better, him or Kadri?
Right now, well,
no, just
Kadri's been.
You would rather have for the next 7 years or 6 years is left on Kadri. You'd rather have Lindholm, but you're already committed to Kadri. It's collecting the number of these guys that's the issue. It's not committing to Lindholm that's the issue. It's that it's another guy that's going to be into his mid-30s and you're getting some back nine with, right? If you don't have Kadri locked up, then I'm like, yes, you need a number 2 center. Kadri is a number 2
I'm not talking about lineups. I'm talking about money. What Lindholm's going to look for, and it all comes together. I get it, but if Lindholm's looking for 9, and I can look at Kadri and go, he's making 7.5, and he's more impactful on a game-to-game basis. Why would I pay you? Like, isn't that the number you should be at?
Kadri's older when he hit free agency than Lindholm will be, and he never had the high ceiling offensively that Lindholm flashed with Stars. So I think he'll get more than Kadri in free agency this summer, but it's not a bad starting point. Like if Kadri's 7 times 7, well, then we'll ask for 8.5 times 7.
Yeah. I'm curious how this one will go. And I really do think he's still a trade candidate more than a re-sign for sure.
He has to want to be here, right? Like that's the other thing that we haven't talked about a lot.
That's the main thing. Sorry, Boom, and you're going to make a point, but we've talked about it before. Yesterday we touched on it. I think the Flames are now in a position where they can move them and fill that spot. They have a Kadri, they have a Backlund. You might not get a wash as far as a player as good as Lindholm, but you're going to get something, and you can do two things at once. You can move Lindholm and still make the playoffs, because Lindholm is not the one driving the bus getting you to the playoff line.
It's a lot of minutes, but they do have guys that can step in. At center, it's going to be tough, but let's say you get a third line center back and a pick in that deal.
Yeah.
Your top 2 centers are Kadri, Backlund. The way they're playing this year, it's like, okay, you're not going to wow anyone, but they're good players. You've got a Coronado and a Pelche waiting in the wings. You mix those guys in, slide someone else to the middle. I mean, if they could do both those things, it would be quite impressive. But again, we're in mucky middle land here, guys. Look what we're talking about here.
Yes, but that's why if you're going to be in mucky middle land, you better push your ass to get the playoffs.
Yeah.
There's no if
you're going to ride 13th.
It out, you're not going to dump guys. Like if you don't want to be mucky middle, then you should be selling right now, because all you're doing I get that you want to maximize your return, but you're also effing yourself up for your picks. If you keep these guys and remain mucky middle and then sell, maybe you get better picks, but your pick's going to be shittier because you've got more points in the bank. Like you're kind of fighting yourself as well.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. All this stuff is mushy middle stuff, man. And the way they treat Markstrom here might be a little bit telling. Like I get the sense that if he's ready to go, they might still give it a game or two. And if you really want to see what internally they believe, like I still think they want to be like, pump the brakes a bit. Like, let's not get too excited about maybe being 8th in the West and having to go on the road as a wild card against a team that's much better than us. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more of our content right here on the Flames Nation YouTube page. We had a bunch of great long-form interviews. You can check out some videos we've done as well outside of the studio. And of course, if you want more writing or merchandise stuff, flamesnation.ca or nationgear.ca. Appreciate you watching.